The puppy walks ahead of me with his nose close to the ground. He is small but not tiny, his legs a little too long for the rest of his body. His tail moves in an easy rhythm that matches the slow air of the day. The field around us is quiet and open, with grass reaching almost to his shoulders. Each step he takes bends the stalks and lets them spring back after he passes. Now and then he stops and lifts his head, as if checking that the world is still in place. A bit of sun catches his fur and picks out lighter strands along his back. He sniffs at a patch of clover, then at a bare spot of dirt, sorting every scent without hurry. There is no path here, just the line we are drawing as we walk. He pauses when a tuft of dry grass brushes his chest and leans into it for a second. A small burr clings to the fur at his leg, and he notices it only when it tugs. He turns in a short, awkward circle, trying to see what touched him. The burr lets go on its own and falls away, and he loses interest just as quickly. A faint insect sound comes from somewhere low in the grass. His ears tilt toward it, one a little slower than the other. He stands still long enough that even the grass around his paws seems to stop moving. Then he takes 3 quick, light steps forward, as if he has made up his mind about something. I watch the line of his back and the way it shifts slightly with each breath. He gives a short, quiet snuffle, more air than sound. The only other noise is the soft rub of plants against his sides as he moves. When the breeze passes over us, a few blades of grass lean toward him and then straighten again. The air smells dry and faintly sweet, like dust that has been warmed for hours. He keeps walking, nose back to the ground, letting the field tell him where to go next. I match his pace without thinking, one slow step after another beside his smaller tracks. He stops so suddenly that a few blades of grass slide along his chest before settling back. Something on the ground in front of him has caught his attention. I follow his gaze and see a small beetle moving over a flat piece of stone. The beetle walks in a straight line at first, then changes direction for no reason I can see. The puppy lowers his front half until his elbows almost touch the dirt. His back legs stay a little stiff behind him, ready for a move that never fully comes. He stretches his neck forward and places his nose just above the beetle. Warm breath lifts a bit of dust and makes the insect pause for a second. He holds still, watching it, his eyes wide and focused. Then he moves one paw forward and sets it down beside the stone, not on it. His claws press lightly into the soil, leaving small half-moon marks along the edge. The beetle reaches the border of the stone and climbs down without hurry. The puppy shifts his weight, following that tiny path as if it is important. His tongue flicks out once and catches a grain of dirt on the tip of his nose. He pulls back and gives his head a short shake, surprised but not upset. The beetle disappears into the grass, and the moment is over for him as quickly as it began. He sniffs the empty spot where it vanished, taking in whatever faint scent is left. Around us, the field is still, the quiet broken only by the sound of his breathing. He stands up again, unfolds his legs, and steps over the stone like it is nothing special. I notice the clear shape of his paw prints in the dry patch of ground next to it. They sit there for a few seconds, sharp at the edges, before a small gust of wind softens them. He gives one more quick look around, ears turning with the slight change in the air. Then he moves on, leaving the stone and the beetle and their small part in his day behind him. A darker strip of ground appears ahead, cutting across the field like a thin line. The puppy slows when he reaches it, his nose working faster now. A narrow stream runs there, only a few inches wide, but enough to change the smell and the sound. The water moves over small stones, clear and steady, making a quiet, constant noise. He stands at the edge for a moment and watches the surface shift in front of him. Light reflects in broken pieces, and his eyes follow those moving shapes. He reaches one paw forward and taps the damp soil, testing how solid it feels. Then he steps in, and the water climbs halfway up his leg. He pulls back at the first cool touch, lifting his paw and shaking off tiny drops. Ripples run outward from where he disturbed the surface, bending around bits of grass and leaf. He studies those circles, his head tilted a little to one side. When they fade, he moves again, this time putting both front paws into the stream. The current presses against his toes, not strong, just present and steady. His fur darkens where the water reaches it, turning a deeper shade along his legs. He shifts his weight carefully, finding balance on the slick stones underneath. A thin leaf floats by and bumps into his paw, nudged along by the flow. He follows it for a short distance, taking slow steps upstream. Each step sends up a small splash, not enough to mark his path, but not enough to break his focus. I can hear the difference between the soft thud of his paws on dry earth and the muted sound in the water. He stops near a wider rock that sits just under the surface and rests one paw there. For a few seconds, he only stands and breathes, surrounded by the quiet sound of the stream moving past. Then he lifts his foot again, steps out onto the bank, and shakes his legs once, drops of water catching the light before they fall. Just beyond the bend in the stream, a fallen branch lies half in the water and half on the bank. The puppy notices it before I do and walks toward it with a small surge of energy. He lowers his head and sniffs along the length of the wet bark. The wood is dark from soaking, and flecks of it lift under the touch of his nose. He takes the thicker end gently between his teeth and tests the weight with a short pull. The branch moves, but stays caught where its middle is wedged between two stones. He shifts his front paws, planting them a little wider for better balance. Then he leans back and tugs again, harder this time. The branch scrapes against the rocks with a low sound, and a bit of mud loosens around it. On the third pull, it comes free, sliding out of its place and into the open water. The stream makes room for it, changing its path around the new shape. He backs up, dragging the branch toward dry ground in small, determined steps. His muscles along his shoulders tighten and relax with each pull. When he reaches a clear patch of soil, he drops it and stands over it, his chest rising and falling faster than before. For a moment, he simply looks down at what he has moved. Tiny pieces of bark stick to the fur at the corners of his mouth. He nudges the branch with one paw so that one end points back toward the stream. The movement seems unplanned, just a natural extension of his curiosity. A few drops of water slide from the wood and darken the dirt around his paws. He gives the branch one last brief sniff, as if confirming it is the same piece he worked so hard to shift. The branch lies still now, but a faint mark remains in the mud where it scraped free. Then his attention lifts away from it, already turning toward the quieter ground beyond the water. He stands beside it for a little while, his breathing evening out as the effort leaves his body. The stream sounds softer now that the scraping and splashing have stopped, just steady water and the quiet shift of leaves. After the work of pulling the branch, his pace slows again on its own. He leaves the stream behind and walks toward a small cluster of thin trees. The light between them is softer, filtered through leaves that move only a little. As he steps into the shade, the color of his fur changes slightly, less shine and more muted tones. He pauses just inside the line where sun turns to shadow. His nose lowers to the ground and moves in short arcs, reading the mix of dry leaves and old twigs. He circles once, his paws brushing aside bits of broken bark. Then he folds down, front legs stretching forward, back legs settling under him. The ground here feels firm and slightly cool through my clothes when I sit nearby. His breathing is still a little quick from the effort at the stream, but it slows with each minute. A small twig near his paw becomes his next point of attention. He rolls it between his teeth without biting hard enough to snap it. Tiny flecks of wood collect at the corner of his mouth and drop onto the leaves. A fly lands for a second on the fur of his shoulder. He twitches the skin there, and the fly lifts away without him needing to look. From where I sit, I can see one eye half closed and one ear still tuned to sounds outside the trees. A single dry leaf rests against his side, lifting and falling slightly with each breath. He lets out a low, long exhale that is almost a sigh. The space around us holds the sound for a moment and then lets it fade. A thin patch of sunlight reaches the ground near his paws and picks out the curve of his nails. He shifts once to tuck his paws a little closer to his chest. His tail curls loosely along one back leg, not tight, just resting there. Then he settles again, watching whatever moves in the narrow band of light at the edge of the shade. The rest under the trees does not last forever. Without much warning, he pushes himself up onto his feet again. Dry leaves crackle softly under his paws as he steps out of the shade. For a moment he stands there, body still, eyes taking in the open space ahead. Then something inside him seems to decide that walking is not enough. He starts to run, first in a straight line, then in a wide, easy curve. His paws hit the ground with a steady rhythm, light but firm. Bits of loose soil jump sideways at each stride and fall back a moment later. His ears flap with the motion, sometimes folded back and sometimes forward. He does not look at me, his focus fixed on the feeling of moving. A low, breathy sound comes from him now and then, more exhale than voice. He makes a second circle, then a third, each one cutting a faint track into the dry surface. On one longer stretch, he lowers his head and stretches his body out more fully. For a few seconds, he looks older than he is, balanced and sure in the way he runs. A small cloud of dust forms around his back feet and hangs there before thinning into the air. When he slows, he does it in stages, turning his run into an uneven trot and then into a walk. His chest rises and falls faster, but his tail swings in a loose, satisfied arc. As he passes by me, I notice small bits of grass clinging to the fur along his sides. He does not stop long enough for me to brush them away. Instead, he drifts past and heads toward the farther edge of the open ground. By the time I turn to follow, his nose is already close to the earth again. The wide, fast circles are gone, replaced by small, careful steps as he reaches the place where the field grows thicker once more. His body seems to hold the last of the run for a moment, small tremors in his legs before they fade. The open ground behind him shows the loose pattern of his path, a light sketch of curves pressed into the dust. At the edge of the field, the plants grow taller and more mixed. Bare patches of soil cut between them in irregular shapes. The puppy slows as the ground becomes less even under his paws. He pauses near a spot where the dirt looks lighter than the rest. Lying there is a single long feather, flat against the earth. Its surface is pale with thin, darker lines running almost straight along its length. He lowers his head until his nose is only a few inches above it. His breath moves the feather a little, lifting one edge and letting it drop again. He watches that small motion with steady attention. For a few seconds, he does nothing else, simply taking in this new object. Then he reaches out with one paw and sets it down gently beside the feather. The pads of his toes press lightly into the soil, close enough to feel it without crushing it. He shifts his weight and brings his nose closer until it almost touches the central shaft. A bit of dust rises, soft and thin, then settles back across the barbs. When he finally makes contact, the feather slides a short distance over the ground. The movement startles him and he hops back a step, his tail lifting slightly. He stands there, watching until he is sure it will not move on its own again. Then he steps forward once more and this time places his paw directly on it. He holds it there, pinning it in place, and leans in for another long sniff. After a moment, he takes the shaft carefully between his teeth and lifts his head. The feather hangs crooked from his mouth, brushing his cheek each time he swallows. He holds it like that for a few breaths, then lets it fall. It lands almost where it started, settling into the same shallow groove in the dirt. For him, the moment seems finished, and his eyes are already moving past it to whatever waits further ahead. When he leaves, the feather behind his steps grows shorter and more relaxed. The light has shifted into a softer angle, stretching long shadows from the taller plants. He walks alongside me now instead of far ahead, his shoulder brushing my leg every few strides. His breathing is deeper than it was at the start, but even and steady. We come to a low stretch of ground where the grass is shorter and the soil feels firm underfoot. He circles once in a slow, thoughtful loop, his nose just above the tips of the blades. Then he folds down into the space he has chosen and settles his weight there. His front paws stretch out in front of him, pads dusty, nails outlined by a thin line of earth. He lets his head sink until his chin almost touches the ground. From there, his view is level with the field, lined with stems and small moving things. His eyes stay open, but the muscles around them soften. Every now and then, one ear twitches at a sound I barely notice. A faint line of dried mud marks the place on his legs where the water reached earlier. A single blade of grass lies across his side, lifting and dropping with his breathing. The air around us has cooled a little, enough to carry the faint smell of dry plants and soil. He does not seem in a hurry to go anywhere else. I stay close and watch the rise and fall of his ribs, a simple pattern that does not ask for anything. When a light breeze moves through it, shifts the grass around him but leaves him still. After a while, I shift my weight and take a step back. He opens his eyes at the sound and lifts his head, looking straight at me. When I turn to walk away, he hesitates for one heartbeat and then gets up to follow without a word from me. His steps fall in behind mine, close enough that I can hear each soft pad touch the ground. There is nothing special in the way we leave the field, just two sets of tracks pressed into the same strip of earth. That quiet walk is where our story really began with Zephyr.